what we both do to understand the background of the client, we ask questions. So obviously in therapy, in case history taking, to understand the client better, we ask a lot of questions. Pay attention to those questions. Is the client, or sorry, is the psychologist just interested in the mental health part of it? Or are they taking your background into consideration? Are they asking you, if you do this, what will happen at home? So what does your culture say about this? Like, for example, if a person of a different religion comes to me, naturally, I don't know much about that religion, like not like the, nitty-gritties of it. So I will ask the person because I don't want to discredit that. Asking those questions is very important. Or for example, you don't want, this is a big red flag for those that are watching. The client needs to be very aware of whether the psychologist is trying to impose his opinions. Exactly. So let's go back to that empowerment point that I made. If I am trying to impose my opinion of not wearing the ghungat on that woman, then that woman is she in her right, she has that right to get up and walk away, because I am not being an ethical therapist. I am not taking into consideration what she and her culture basically consists. So I hope that answers your question. But this is not something that you're going to understand in the first session. It may take 1 or 2 or 3 sessions to understand the personality of the therapist, the way the therapist is going about the therapy. But be very careful about those kinds of things. Just understand the context that the psychologist is coming from when he asks his questions.
Exactly. So I just to have a few pointers, like Sneha said, you don't realize this in a first go, but then like the therapy, the intervention that a therapist does, the conceptualization of the case when it presents, when the client comes to you, it has to integrate the culture and the context that the person is coming from into the therapy. And if that is not happening, then this is not the place for you. Basically, a therapist has to present a very broad perspective. If they are very narrow in their approach and if they use their limited self-knowledge, then obviously the therapy is not going to be about the client. It is going to be about the therapist's opinion and their views only. And you will realize this.
Hang on.
What happened?
I don't know. I think Rashi just went. Okay, she's back.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're back.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I just dropped off.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yeah. So another thing is that whenever you are coming up with an issue, like every concern comes with a specific intervention. If the therapist decides to focus on different aspects, like for example, if a client comes to you and decides to talk to you about some particular issue, and you regard that issue and attribute it to some values that the person holds, then that is going to be a problem because the issue is not addressed in the first place. So these are certain things that will definitely guide you into explaining whether the therapist is appropriate for you or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which actually brings us to our third point, which is practical application. So Monali talked about how you should not have limited knowledge. I'm not saying that everyone will have all the knowledge in the world, but it should not be limited and narrow up to the point where you're not being ethical, right? So now, as psychologists, many of you guys know that we use a lot of assessments and evaluation resources, and also lots of therapeutic interventions, right? But then what happens is that these assessments and these evaluations and even these interventions and all, they have been made a very long time ago. Yeah. And they're quite outdated. So we try to update them through our personal therapy as much as possible. But if you just look at the literature part of it, is quite outdated. And these tools are not revised, and they've been standardized in times where, again, women were not as empowered as they are today. They've been standardized by men again. So and then there are chances also these tools were based on research that was conducted on different populations, which might not even be relevant to the population that your client comes from. So you have to be very mindful of these things. You need to understand which resources you're using. I'm not saying completely reject the resource, but then try to mold it in such a way that it's going to help your client. So in that, you need to be mindful of your client's background. Coming back to the first point. So it needs to be a nice marriage between the two, the applications and the background. You need to put those into harmony and then go about your therapy.
Okay, so now as we know that this profession is mainly female dominated, it is natural to find it a little odd to see a male there. Like for example, seeing a male nurse is still a little odd. But again, a woman might feel a little more comfortable with sharing this information with another woman because it is an inclination that I will maybe I'll personally feel maybe that I'll be able to tell a woman better and she'll understand it better. So I would say that regardless of the gender of the therapist, as Neha mentioned, those 3 pillars are extremely important. Being empathetic towards your client, being non-judgmental, having unconditional positive regard, and those are the key factors that you should look for in a therapist. Choosing a therapist, it should not be based on the gender, but should rather be based on all the factors that we have discussed earlier.
Yeah, and let's go back to the point that I made about the 3 pillars that every therapist should follow. In that, there was non-judgment and there was empathy, right? So, and then let's go back to the point of feminism or being a feminist. So, being a feminist means what? You're treating everyone equally, just to put it in a very, 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 very short manner. So now, when you take that point and then you take the pillars that a therapist needs to remember, so automatically, when we consider these points, automatically, whoever is going into therapy, whoever is getting into this profession, is automatically a feminist, right? Because you are not being judgmental. You are treating everyone with equality. You're not going to be discriminating between, oh, I want this client and I don't want this client. I don't agree with this person. I agree with. You don't do that. That's not what a therapist does. You're supposed to be non-judgmental. You're supposed to be non-biased, all these things. So automatically the profession of therapy or the profession of psychology is deeply rooted in feminism. And if you are a therapist, if you are a psychologist and you're saying, I'm not a feminist, then what are you doing in this field? That is my main question to you. What are you doing in this field? You clearly don't belong in it, and you clearly aren't an ethical therapist. These are like my bold statements to whoever that person is.
Definitely.
So yeah, so that's our take on it, basically.